The cabin lights were dimmed to a soft amber, the kind meant to lull passengers into forgetting where they were, 37,000 feet above the earth, sealed inside a metal tube hurtling through the night. The steady hum of the engines blended with quiet breaths, rustling blankets, and the occasional clink of a cup settling into a tray table. In row 12, by the window, Daniel Carter slept. His head leaned slightly toward the glass, his jaw shadowed with stubble he no longer cared to shave daily. One arm curved protectively around the small figure beside him, as if even sleep understood what waking life had taught him too well. He was all she had now. Lily Carter, 6 years old, sat tucked under his arm, her socked feet dangling just short of the floor. She wasn't asleep. She rarely slept on planes anymore. The sky made her feel too far away from everything that mattered. She pressed her forehead to the window and stared at the wing, where tiny white lights blinked against the darkness. 1, 2, 3, she counted them softly, barely moving her lips. Her mom used to do that. Whenever Lily was scared, of storms, of the dark, of doctors' offices, her mother would distract her with numbers. "Count what you can see," she'd say. "Numbers keep bad thoughts busy." Lily blinked fast and kept counting. Daniel shifted in his sleep, tightening his arm unconsciously. Even now, even here, his body remembered the instinct to protect. His dreams, however, offered no such peace. He dreamed of alarms, of warning lights flashing red instead of green, of a voice in his headset calling his name again and again, growing more distant each time. He dreamed of reaching for controls that weren't there anymore. 8 months. It had been 8 months since he last sat in a cockpit. 8 months since his world split cleanly in two. The flight was supposed to be easy. A short domestic hop, a way to get Lily to her aunt's house for the summer. A way for Daniel to convince himself that movement meant progress, that distance could somehow stitch a broken life back together. He hadn't told Lily that he'd chosen this particular flight because it let him sit on the right side of the plane. Old habits died hard. A soft ding echoed through the cabin. Most passengers barely noticed. A few stirred, adjusting blankets or shifting in their seats. Lily paused her counting and glanced toward the ceiling speaker. Then came the voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking." It was a woman's voice, calm, professional, measured just right. But Lily noticed something adults often missed. The spaces between the words were slightly too long. "If there is a licensed pilot on board," the captain continued, "please press your call button." The cabin changed instantly. It wasn't loud at first. It was subtle, the way a room feels when a door opens and cold air slips in. A man a few rows back laughed under his breath, the sound brittle. Someone whispered, "Did she just say pilot?" Daniel didn't wake. Lily turned to him, studying his face. His eyebrows were drawn together, as if he were concentrating on something important. She reached out and touched his sleeve. Another chime. The captain's voice returned, closer now, less distant. "Is there a pilot on board? We require immediate assistance." Whispers rose like insects. "That's not normal. Are we okay? Why would they need?" A flight attendant moved quickly down the aisle, her heels too fast, her practiced smile failing to quite reach her eyes. She scanned faces, lingering for half a second too long on each one. Daniel's fingers twitched. Lily tugged harder. "Daddy," she whispered, still asleep. At the front of the cabin, the cockpit door opened. Passengers leaned into the aisle to see. The captain stepped out. She was tall, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun beneath her hat. Her uniform was crisp, her posture straight, but the strain showed in the way her shoulders held tension, in the slight pallor beneath her composed expression. This was Captain Elena Morales, though no one knew her name yet. She didn't use the intercom this time. "Please," she said aloud, her voice steady but urgent. "If anyone here has any flight experience at all, commercial, military, private, we need you to come forward." Silence answered her. People avoided her eyes. A few shook their heads apologetically. One man raised his hands as if to say, "Not me." Fear made cowards of good people, and Captain Morales understood that. She wasn't angry. She was calculating. Her gaze moved row by row. Then it stopped. Row 12. Daniel Carter. Something about him felt familiar. The way his feet were planted flat on the floor. The straightness of his spine even in sleep. The unconscious discipline written into his posture. And the child. Captain Morales took a step closer. "Sir," she called gently. Lily's heart hammered. She swallowed, her small hands curling into fists. "My dad's a pilot," she said. Her voice trembled, but it carried. The captain's eyes widened just a fraction. Passengers turned. Daniel's eyes flew open. Years of training snapped him from sleep to full awareness in a single breath. His heart surged, senses sharp, already searching for context, for threat, for responsibility. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Captain Morales crouched slightly so she was eye level with him. "Sir," she said quietly, "my first officer has suffered a medical emergency. He's unconscious. Autopilot is engaged, but I need a qualified co-pilot." Daniel felt the words land, heavy and precise. The cabin noise faded. The past surged forward. Checklist memory, instrument layouts, emergency procedures, and then Lily. Her fingers were clutching his shirt, her eyes wide but trusting. "When?" he asked. 10 minutes ago," the captain replied. "We're stable, for now." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. 8 months since he'd worn the uniform. 8 months since he'd sworn he was done, that he'd never put Lily through that life again. But this wasn't a career decision. This was a moment. He looked at his daughter and brushed a thumb across her cheek. "Hey," he said softly. "Remember what we do when we're scared?" She nodded. "Count." He smiled faintly. Then he looked back at Captain Morales. "Yes," he said, "I'm a pilot." The cockpit door closed behind Daniel with a solid, final click, sealing him inside a world he had sworn he'd left behind. For a brief moment, he simply stood there, taking in the familiar glow of instrument panels, the gentle vibration under his feet, the quiet, disciplined chaos of blinking lights and digital readouts. It felt like stepping into a memory. Captain Elena Morales moved with practiced efficiency, but Daniel could sense the tension beneath her composure. The left seat, the first officer's seat, was empty except for a hastily removed headset. A folded blanket lay where a man had been moments earlier, now unconscious and being attended to by the crew in the forward galley. "Sit," Morales said, already pulling up data on the primary flight display. Fast briefing. Daniel slid into the seat, fingers brushing the armrest. His hands hesitated only a fraction of a second before settling naturally on the controls. Muscle memory took over, smooth and instinctive, like a language he hadn't spoken in years but never truly forgot. "How long since your last flight?" Morales asked. 8 months, Daniel replied. His voice sounded steadier than he felt. "Same aircraft type. Logged about 4,200 hours total." Morales nodded, relief flickering briefly across her face before professionalism reclaimed it. "Good. We're cruising at 36,000. Autopilot's holding. Weather ahead is rough. Moderate turbulence on descent." Daniel scanned the instruments. Altitude stable, airspeed steady, fuel balanced, everything exactly where it should be, and that somehow made it worse. He adjusted his headset, the soft hiss of static grounding him. "What happened to your first officer?" he asked. "Collapsed mid-check," Morales said. "No warning. Cabin crew suspects cardiac. He's breathing but unresponsive." Daniel absorbed that, filing it away. There would be time to process later. For now, the plane came first. Behind the cockpit door, the cabin felt very far away, but Lily felt very close. "She's my daughter," Daniel said quietly. 6 years old. Morales glanced at him, her eyes softening. "She's safe. Lead attendance with her." Daniel nodded once. That was enough. They ran through checklists together, voices calm, clipped, precise. Daniel read back altitudes and headings, his mind aligning itself with the rhythm of the flight. Each call-out felt like laying a brick back into place, rebuilding something solid inside him. Outside, clouds thickened, illuminated intermittently by distant lightning. The aircraft shuddered as it entered turbulence, the kind that rattled nerves more than it rattled metal. In the cabin, gasps rose. In the cockpit, Daniel adjusted the controls. Reducing speed slightly, he said. "Smoother ride." Morales watched him work. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't rushed. He flew the way seasoned pilots did, like time was an ally, not an enemy. "Approach is busy tonight," she said. "ATC's stacking arrivals." "Copy," Daniel replied. "We'll be ready." Minutes stretched into an hour. Sweat dampened the back of Daniel's neck beneath his collar, but his hands remained steady. Every once in a while, his mind tried to wander, tried to pull him back to hospital rooms and funeral flowers and the promise he'd made at a graveside. I'll always choose her. This was choosing her. Descent clearance received, Morales said. Daniel adjusted settings, responding automatically. Beginning descent. The runway lights appeared through a break in the clouds, distant but unmistakable. White and red, precise and welcoming. Morales glanced at him. You want the landing? Daniel hesitated. Not from fear, but from respect for the weight of the moment. Yes, he said finally. If you're okay with that. She nodded. I trust you. Trust. It settled on his shoulders, heavy and grounding. As they descended, turbulence increased briefly, the plane jolting just enough to remind everyone aboard that gravity was still in charge. Daniel compensated smoothly, voice even as he called out adjustments. In the cabin, Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit and counted silently, her lips moving. 1, 2, 3. At 2,000 feet, the runway filled the windshield. Stable, Morales said. Continuing, Daniel replied. He thought of Lily's laugh. Of bedtime stories half finished. Of mornings he was still learning how to get right. The wheels met the runway with a solid, confident thump. For half a second, there was silence. Then the roar of reverse thrust, the deceleration pressing everyone gently forward. The aircraft slowed, steady and controlled, until it rolled to a stop. The cockpit erupted in sound, applause, cheers, relieved laughter echoing through the cabin walls. Daniel closed his eyes and exhaled, long and deep. Morales removed her headset and turned to him, a wide smile breaking through the tension she'd carried since the emergency began. You just saved a lot of lives, she said. Daniel shook his head slowly. We did. When he stepped back into the cabin, the reaction hit him like a wave. People clapped. Some wiped tears. A man in a business suit gave him a grateful nod. A woman mouthed thank you. Then Lily saw him. She wriggled free from the flight attendant and ran down the aisle, her shoes slapping against the floor. Daddy. Daniel dropped to one knee just in time to catch her, holding her tight as she buried her face in his chest. I knew you'd wake up, she said, her voice muffled but sure. He pressed his lips to her hair, eyes burning. I always will. Around them, the world resumed its noise and motion, but for a moment, everything was still. Sometimes, courage doesn't announce itself.